Hello, welcome to It's All Comical for December the 17th, 2021. I'm Russ, your Joker in Japan, formerly your guy in Guam, and I'm keeping this thing going a little bit. Maybe as much just for myself, I think, at this point, than it really is doing me a whole lot of good, right now. For building audience. It began back in April of this year. We're near the end of the year. We're not fully at a year here doing these It's All Comicals. And actually, the beginning in April, it started off exclusively kind of as a way that I was sort of just chronicling week to week my a weight loss effort. And Started at 265 and change, a few ounces over 265. And this morning I weighed in at, well, I'm not quite ready to celebrate being under 200, but I weighed in this morning at 199.5. Now, just, I've talked a lot over the course of my weight loss that, weight will, it comes down, but it fluctuates on its way down, right? So, today I'm at 199.5 according to our bathroom scale, and tomorrow, I eat a little bit of salty food today, or depending on a lot of different factors. Who knows? I could be at I think yesterday I was at 201.7, which was a weird uptick from the day before. So I could have another weird uptick, and tomorrow I'll be, I don't want to see. I'm not going to really say I've broken the 200 barrier until I'm well below the 199, and it's not, even with the fluctuations, it's not going back over. But still, it's a good progress. And unfortunately, I missed a couple of weeks here doing this, which is, again, the sort of evolution here, and why it is that we went to It's All Comical is, I think It's All Comical is a great way to, maybe in one way kind of summarizes a life view, but also it was a reference to the writing work that I'm doing, and mainly this is what this is, right? It's a week to week vlog for me as a writer, just sort of as a writer, as a creative, just sort of cataloging what it is that I'm up to, and sort of documenting again the weight loss and my family's life adventures as we are sort of in a mode of a bit whirlwind. We're late of we're well. My wife is a Texas native. I lived sort of all over the United States. Born in Baltimore, lived in Florida for a little period of time. When my parents broke up when I was young, we moved to where my mom's family lived in New Jersey, and then her second husband's company brought us from New Jersey down to Texas, where I've essentially been a Texan, a lifelong Texan, since I was very young. And I'm now, 51. I'm going to be 52 here in 2022. And getting sort of really just getting my feet underneath me as getting my life in order, I suppose I would say. As a writer, which is something I should have been doing my whole life, as and and as a human being. I've been talking about. Maybe that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about in this one. Is I don't know that I've talked much about doing journaling. Um, that's something that I kind of picked up again in April. I had started with this idea that I was going to get into copywriting, and this was before my wife approached me about, the possibility of not staying in Guam long term. We had, again, I'm living abroad overseas. We moved away from Texas because my wife was looking for, she's an educator and was looking for opportunities outside of the school system in Texas where she had been working in school administration, and Guam is a beautiful tropical island. It's not terribly different in many ways, I'm sure, from living in Hawaii. So when a job opened up with the Department of Defense Education Administration for her, we decided to take a leap on that. And the idea was, that it's a good paying job. Would kind of be an adventure for our family, and geez, who doesn't want to live on a beautiful tropical island where you can go to the beach just about every day, unless it's, hurricane conditions, which they get hit by the occasional tropical storm, but other than that, though, you can kind of count on sunny days and beach weather a lot of all the time, and the only, for me, kind of being in a very transitional phase in life, had taken some classes in computer technology and was trying to sort of establish something for myself because I've made my living traditionally, working sort of very, underemployed in the transportation industry. I've driven most of my life, delivery. And had not made the most of my education and my love and frankly my talent for writing. And it's the one thing that I really have a hell of a lot of confidence that I can do, and yet had never really found a way to capitalize on it and hadn't developed myself. And here I am in an effort, certainly since 2015, when when I had to put to bed who I was at that point after a 15-year marriage that obviously, my former wife and I just came to the realization that we were, drifting apart. I think we as divorces go, it was reasonably amicable, and we now, we're not really in active communication at this point. My sense is that she's established a good life for herself and has, good relationships and is doing very, very well in her professional life somewhere off in Arizona, and I don't give that any additional thought. Happy for her. Whereas I know now that I'm definitely living the life that I am meant to be living, which is something I was not able to say in my previous. I don't want to say it's a previous life. It's I embrace the idea that this is the journey, and I am in the current stage of my journey and appreciating it. And in many ways, I think both physically and mentally and spiritually, if you will, can say with all sincerity and confidence that I'm healthy, as healthy as I've ever been, and embracing the journey of life and the adventure of it. And so, we're here now in Japan. My wife, approached me about, what if she were to really make the most of her opportunities with the Department of Education and, the Department of Defense Education Administration, and was a bit more aggressive and therefore would be looking for opportunities to continue to grow in her career, and which sort of at the same time meant, that I had to, I mean, I unfortunately with the pandemic, there was a long period of time where I say unfortunately, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I got to spend an extended period of time with my son. I mean, and any parent who has had to spend a great deal of time outside of their household, going off to a job and placing their child into daycare, um, on one level, you're very happy to be self-sufficient. You're happy to grow in your vocation. Hopefully, you've got a job that that is fulfilling in some way. Certainly, a job that is providing well for your family. But I don't think no parent doesn't sort of miss those early developmental years if they have to make that choice, right? We've got to prioritize survival, and look, at a point, I think we recognize that a child reaches a point developmentally where they need the social interaction and the guiding hand of qualified educators, so that there comes a time where it's better for a child to be able to go someplace where there's focused learning and focused playtime and they're developing social skills, and but in the early, I know that I've been able to experience something kind of extraordinary, at least in Western society, and all the more so as a dad, though that's more and more common, I think, in our world these days, as we're redefining gender-related roles. I certainly don't feel any shame. My wife loves the idea that our son has had extended amount of time with at least one of us in the house and taking care of him primarily on a day-to-day basis. And as it stands, then, which of course during the pandemic became kind of even more intensely focused, because he had spent some time in daycare prior to the pandemic, and then of course during the pandemic daycares weren't open for a very long time, and now we're kind of getting to, I mean, it depends where you are in the world and what's going on. I mean, there are some parts of the world we're hearing that people are all restrictions are being lifted and life is getting very much back to normal. And then at the very same time, we've got places in the world that are enacting stronger restrictions on things. So I mean, clearly here, even in December, almost 2 full years now into the worldwide COVID pandemic of 2020, 2021, that the world is still certainly affected, but definitely the personal impact was that there's a long period of time here where seeking outside employment just wasn't an option. Our family relied on me because their daycare is just, daycares were not closed or excuse me, were not available. And then of course, as we're moving into, new places, every time that happens, there's kind of a reset and a period of time where you've got to get onto waiting lists, and there's limited availability, and et cetera, et cetera. Certainly that's the case here in Misawa, Japan, where we are. We still don't have a full-time, and it doesn't seem like there is going to be a full-time daycare solution. So, right now my son is in a part-time daycare solution, and and again, hand in hand, sort of, I realize, this is the way I speak, and I apologize for that, but it's, I know I sort of cut back and forth, and I tease your ass with a feather, and, and then I, get back on track here. But it is, again, she came to me in Guam, and with our original concept being that we were going to spend possibly 10 years or more, or whatever her DODEA career was going to be. It was going to be, probably either serving the same job again, which was a good paying job, and afforded us an opportunity to live on a Navy base there in Guam at a, certainly a much reduced living cost than off base. So it was the sort of thing that it affords us the ability to be a one income house, which is a very sort of throwback kind of notion. We're not two incomes, certainly haven't been for the last couple of years, and we don't have the mandate to be a two income house, not on a regular basis. But that doesn't mean that I'm not, I am very, very driven to want to do something for myself, and I mean, beyond just materially providing for our family. A lot of and our conversations have been, and I'm extremely again I'm with the right. I couldn't be more grateful for my life, not just simply and not just at the level of, oh, this lazy bastard doesn't want to have a job. I mean, I'm working. I know it's in the last 2 years I'm working harder at a vocation that I love than I've ever worked for any job that's ever made me any money to this point. And I definitely have full confidence that that my efforts as a writer are going to pay off fairly well financially. It's the sort of thing that I've got to build. And again, so we went from last April, where I was in a place where I was looking to get into doing some professional copywriting as an independent, trying to figure out a way to generate income working from home, and hopefully to be able to do that as a writer would be something of a dream come true. And then again, she came to me about this idea that she wanted to really think differently about her career, and that she wanted to think about, we love living in Guam. Guam was great, but that there were opportunities for her to grow in her career with DODEA, and therefore, A, was I open to that, and B, how does it sit with me to not, to really not be concerned about trying to establish a regular income for myself, because it's not going to be possible, because we're going to be bouncing around. Jobs for spouses are going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to find. Certainly in the pandemic climate, it's all more difficult. Really, the only thing that is open to me, if I can find it, would be opportunities available to an English-speaking person. I don't speak, Japanese. I'm here in Japan. Obviously, that's a tremendous barrier to being able to find work. And very likely, if we were to move from Japan to anywhere else, it would be also to places where I don't speak a local language, which would continue to be a barrier to finding any kind of local work. And yes, there are some limited, like, oh gosh, at the schools they can use people to be, lunchroom monitors, or, recess outdoor monitors, and that sort of support staff kinds of things that pay, low hourly wages. I mean, it would not be as, which at the end of the day means, yes, if that's what I craved in order to have a sense of purpose in our family, to just get out and be able to do something and have a paycheck that I had in hand and be able to say I'm making some kind of a contribution, you'd have to recognize that we're talking about the sorts of jobs that would be, kind of nominal compensation. I mean, it would be, a low-level compensation would not be tremendously helpful for our family, and if anything, it would probably be a bit stressful for our family because I would clearly have to find a schedule around a part-time um schedule of daycare for my son, and would mean that a lot of the things that I'm able to do for our household, I'd be just taking time away from that kind of in an unnecessary way. So it's Amy, my wife's, her real desire that for a number of reasons, also being, someone who loves reading, and who are, part of what she loves about me as a long time, as a heavy reader, as an English professor, as somebody who loves writers and writing. That's something that she loves about me, and wants to for me to have an opportunity to do with myself, for myself. And she enjoys what I write, right? So there's kind of a level to which, even if I don't end up establishing a great regular income, that there's a personal fulfillment aspect to it, as well as that my wife appreciates that about me, and that, all of that being said, as I say, I'm now working harder and more focused and more proud of what it is that I'm doing than I that I've ever had, because again, my jobs have been in transportation. I was sort of making a living when my wife, I had gone from delivery to working for Uber, sort of really full-time, more than full-time, putting in well more than 40, 50 hours a week, 60, 70 hours a week, I don't even know, just to try to make, enough to afford my cruddy little apartment that I was living in after my divorce. And, here we are, these many years later, from 2015 now to 2021, so 6 years later. We've been together almost 6 years. Our son is 4, and we're happy. I'm incredibly happily married, and working on a lot of projects that have a lot of that mean a lot to me. I'm working on screenplays. I've got novel work. I at some point started to talk about why this was called It's All Comical, because I had been working on scripts for a graphic novel and comics, and that's going to be dependent on whether I can. I feel like I've got a good bug for that, so it's something that I'm interested in continuing to try to do. Unfortunately, I'm finding that it's, difficult to find the right artist partner, illustrator, and there's kind of a barrier to entry with that. I think there's comics artists, by and large, either are one-man bands who feel that they are accomplished artists and storytellers. So, my sense of the comics world at the amateur level, at the level of people who are looking to break in, is that there are a lot of people who have developed their artistic abilities to a pretty high degree. You can really bring it with the visual design aspect, and they understand. They've been working on. They've got a host of characters, a big portfolio of their work, and feel like they know what they're doing, but honestly, they don't value writers enough, because I've done some exploration about, how can I really connect with a motivated artist, and a lot of them don't seem to have the the honesty to sort of understand that like to be a writer is a different skill set than being an artist, and just because you have a lot of things that you like and that you're talented at drawing, that doesn't mean that you can tell a story. And there's a weird, like, this idea that like the writer, you know, I definitely am a writer and I value what I bring to the table, and I absolutely understand that the artist has you know, they've got to then take what takes me a certain amount of time, it's going to take them a lot more time to turn my story into art. And I certainly am, you know, I understand there's that needs to be a collaborative process, therefore. I want to write in support of an artist about what it is that they want, they're interested in telling the story, but I'm not here to pay somebody. And that's, you know, kind of some of the feedback that I got, you know, from people is, you know, when you ask about how can I find somebody who I'm looking for, I really need somebody who has at least the self-awareness to go, look, I draw well. And there are, you know, I have some themes that I'm interested in, but I'm not an accomplished writer. I'm not a good writer. And a lot of them aren't good writers, but they think they are, or I'm good enough. They really look at it. So it's interesting that, you know, like, writers are not well valued in movies, and they're sort of shockingly not well valued in comics. And, you know, look, if you are a comics, if you can do both equally well, you know, if you're a one-man band in that regard, more power to you. But that's not everybody. There are going to be people who are, you know, it's like being an athlete. There are some athletes who are have all the physical tools. They just don't have, you know, they really need a good coach to give them the plays, right? I mean, there are some quarterbacks who've gone into the NFL and have failed because they've got a big arm, they can make all the throws, they can run, and they're strong, and da-da-da-da, but they can't read a defense, and they can't, you know, they certainly can't call plays for themselves, and they, you know, I mean, not that quarterbacks have been calling plays in the NFL for decades now, but the point being is, you know, there's a mental aspect to being successful in sports, and it's the same thing, right? Like, this is the partnership that I'm looking specifically for somebody who at least has the awareness to say, you know, I love to draw. I just, you know, dialogue and constructing a solid story is not my strong suit. I've made a handful of connections with some people that way, but they're not motivated. And so that's what I'm looking for. I want somebody who's like, I really want to break into comics. I really need a good writer to get me there. And again, it's not that I'm saying I want to tell my stories, but I am saying I do need a partnership with somebody who's equally motivated. And so, you know, I've got some things that are working with some people, but they're definitely, you know, one guy I don't know, you know, he's just, it seems like he was more interested in doing some streaming, right? You know, he's kind of a gamer and he does streaming, and he was hoping to build an audience for people to watch him draw. And so, you know, there's sort of some kind of an instant gratification audience building that this particular guy is interested in, and it wasn't going well for him. And we began talking about some ideas, and he kind of fell off the radar. And then I've got another friend, and I've talked about him, Bill Morrison, who lives in the UK, who does a great work, and he and I have been developing some stories. We've really spent quite a bit of time, and I've written some scripts, and that you know, Bill hasn't had the, you know, opportunity, and I don't have any. I don't know. You know, I don't know. There's kind of an I don't know about it. You know, I know Bill has certain challenges in life, and a full life, and you know, he's only got so much energy and time and focus on this stuff. And so, you know, in that, you know, again, I don't blame Bill for living his life, you know, and I really hope that we get back to doing the things that we've talked about doing and completing that work. But you know, my longer you know, as I explained to Bill, and I'm laying it out here, and hopefully anyone that you know would be watching this would understand. I'm gonna funnel my energy where it seems most profitable. And at this point, you know, again, Bill has some scripts to work on, and when the time comes around to refocus on that, meaning that Bill's had the opportunity to develop the artwork to based on those scripts, and you know, then I'm fully on board. I hope that we get back to that. But in the meantime, I'm you know definitely looking for artists who really can use a good writer. And again, it's not that that's the thing, and I'm not paying you. We're here to work in a partnership, and it's on a speculative basis to hopefully sell. Or if you know, if you're an artist that's somehow catching this, and you're like, I could use a good writer, you know, but I'm not here to pay you to draw my stories for me. We develop it together, and you know we can self-publish or try to find a publisher who's interested and open to accepting new work. But that's the basis. I don't have money to pay somebody, and you know, I'm interested in doing my part, which is good because, you know, I have a lot of confidence that I can deliver, you know, pro quality work, and you know, so if you know, again, and I'm clearly I'm reacting a bit to you know some sort of disappointing exchanges that I've had with artists, you know, who said, you know, well, you pay the artist. I'm like, I don't pay the artist. What are you talking about? You know, you get paid when you sell something. You know, if you're a professional, it's like, you know, my work is worth something. Yeah, my work is worth something. Someone who's paying me. Nobody's paying me. They're not paying you. That's, you know, and if that's not the relationship that you're looking for, then why are you even responding to my question? Because we're not talking about the same thing. So there's that. But so, you know, and I don't, you know, I feel like I'm almost, you know, I realize that the tenor of this video is maybe a little bit different than, you know, it's not at all downbeat, actually quite upbeat. I'm in a great place. You know, again, I've got a lot going on. I'm working with a man named Mitchell German. I talked about this in a previous video, and you know, Mitch German is a creator of a series of software called Control Writer that is based on some principles. So he's got this system and that he came up with for developing stories, and he's got software that will help people kind of organize their thoughts from inception of idea through constructing stories. He started off mainly with screenplays, and he's developed the software, adapted it for novel writing and for other applications, essay writing, and also business writing. You know, there are some commonalities to building stories, and he's taken he sort of really began with this course called the Mega Course for Screenwriters, that a lot of the core and the essence of that, you know, a lot of it was screenwriting related. A lot of it, and if you know anything about screenwriting, it's very, you know, there are specific requirements to screenwriting as far as, you know, act breaks and formatting and things of this nature that are not universal to all kinds of stories. But of course, there was a lot that he was talking about in terms of developing story. And so he's taken that essential system and he's distilled it into this Your Storytelling Potential. It's a course, and you know, I just happen to be, you know, had correspondence with Mitch as a customer for some of the software. I've talked about this before, but no point not laying it out a little bit here. Again, I just had a chance to, I corresponded with him as a satisfied customer, and it got a conversation rolling, and I'm now, I am now under contract. So, I've been talking about exploiting my writing. Professionally, I really, am employed right now. Technically, I've signed a contract to develop the textbook companion for the Your Storytelling Potential course. So that's kind of my main focus right now, and then I'm continuing work on my animated Donnerverse Superman fan project, which again I have some ideas about how I'm going to develop that. Whether that ends up just being a fan project, I do have a thought about how it might potentially turn into a commercial project with that actually generates some funds to benefit a cause. I can't say too much about that because that literally is something that is got to be in the works and involves the involvement of other people, and so there's nothing to announce certainly there, but I'm in the process of kind of developing the promotional package to see whether or not we can get it produced as something that can, go somewhere down the line. But at a minimum, again, at a minimum, my goal is to at least find a way to create what I think is going to be a fantastic fan, if nothing else, fan fiction tribute and and great fan service for those people who are like me and enjoy the Christopher Reeve series of Superman films from the 70s and 80s. And then I'm also developing other commercial work. I plan to start I've got some ideas about something that I'm thinking about self-publishing that's kind of building towards a novel. I'm going to probably self-publish it in segments, and then I'll have a novel at some point, a traditional novel, and of course I've got multiple screenplay ideas, but for sure at least one that I'm most interested in developing. But right now I've got plenty on my plate between the Your Storytelling Potential course and the book and the script that I'm writing for the animated Donnerverse, which is the second. The first one was a festival-winning script, and there's a lot. Check out the animated Donnerverse on Facebook. Always can use more people to follow us and what I'm doing with that. And as I say, I want to have two very solid scripts. Because that's what I really have the most power to do right now. And B, I think it's the tremendous proof of concept, that I've got great scripts in hand, and then can exploit those scripts, and build them out, flesh them out into hopefully some great movies that people enjoy. All right, so way long, I can't seem to shut up and wrap up quickly. So again, to recap, we're at 199.5 on the scale. Writing a book, writing the script for the animated Donnerverse, writing a number of other scripts, writing a novel. I've got a lot going on. Super happy in life. I'm journaling. I'm meditating. I'm, living in gratitude. I'm doing my work, and I'm trusting the results. And hopefully that's conveying a message that connects with some people out there. If as always, please like, subscribe, comment. Hit me up with some comments. Let me know what you think I need to be doing better. My wife opened up a conversation last night, so my setup looks very similar. I'm sitting, I've got a corner desk. It's a different corner desk, but it looks very similar. My computer, which got a little bit banged up in the move, but fortunately is running well. The computer is sitting just where it was this is not the same window. You know, you look at my previous videos, it almost looks like I'm in the same place, but that, you know, I now have this, I've got a bookshelf. I keep pointing in the wrong direction because the cameras are opposite, obviously. Got a bookshelf behind me, and whereas before I had some pictures back here, I had baby pictures, but the pictures that were here in my videos when I was shooting them in Guam, we now have a stairwell. This is actually up on the second floor. So all the bedrooms are here, and in Japan are on the second floor, and there's a stairwell, and my wife has put a lot of family pictures, including the baby photos that I had of our son, Stephen, and my wife's kids, Meridian and Beckett, who are older and grown and don't live with us, but they're all now in that, you know, so she was asking about what do you want to do? You make your videos and you don't have a great wall background, and I don't, you know, I don't know. I'm not. That's not my end of things. That's why I'm looking for an artist. Right? Is I'm not as much a visual artist. I enjoyed drawing when I was a kid, but I'm aping, you know, what I saw in comics, and I mean, I can draw well enough, but not at a professional level, and I certainly don't fancy myself an artist or an interior designer. And you know, conversations about visual stuff don't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. I think, you know, if you present me with a bunch of different things that I can say, oh, I like, you know, looking at that, I like it, and think that would make a great backdrop to what I've got right now is this incomplete. See, here's the thing, right? As I get into my function, I've got my functional desk going, and you can see I've still got stuff here laying on the ground, including a printer that's not, because we have a printer, and it's there for when printing needs come up, then it's an emergency, right? But I don't do printing on a regular basis. So we need some little piece of furniture, because although I have a same shaped desk, the desk didn't survive the desk. I had a cheap desk, and this one is not a super expensive desk. I like the setup. I like the L-shaped setup. It's not quite as long this way, and I have the printer in the old situation here. Now I really need like an additional something over here to set the printer on. But anyway, so, you know, it's the one room in the house that's still, like, we've been here a couple of months, and I'm sort of so focused on work that I haven't quite, you know, yes, we'd love to have a more interesting backdrop than a white wall, and this shit picked up. But, you know, it's a work in progress. It's all a work in progress. Right, so anyway, thank you very much for spending this time with me, and I hopefully will get back to doing this regularly. Check in on this channel every Friday for this ongoing vlog, and until I see you next week, you have a great week. Thank you very much.